Today I'm going to paint a spring greetings card with a couple of new techniques in it that I haven't really used before for painting florals, and so hopefully you'll enjoy that. And first of all, before I start that, I just wanted to show you these two books that I've just received from Amazon. Canson XL, I've been using them for a while, actually the small one. It's this one that I've been painting in for the last couple of months, and you will have seen and done some of these, no doubt. But I decided I wanted to get the bigger one, and because I'm getting somewhat towards the end of this one, look, only got about another 8 pages, I thought I would take the opportunity to replace it with another one like this, and also to get the bigger one, which is A4 size, which is 8 by nearly 12 inches in size. It's the same paper. It's a multimedia paper. That means you can use any kind of paint on it. You could use acrylic, probably get away with a bit of oil if you wanted to, but it's absolutely brilliant for watercolor. It shows up the colors really nicely, especially digitally. So if you photograph your work and you put it on online, on Facebook or anywhere, or if you want to reproduce it in any way, have it printed or anything, should you wish to do so. This paper is particularly good at giving you nice, bright, clean colours. So I'm very, very pleased with that. So I just thought I'd let you know about that, and I'll put the links in the description below. But today I'm going to paint in the existing book, this one. And what I thought I would do is I'm going to paint a sort of spring design on here. And then my suggestion would be that you would cut it out and mount it on a card, because otherwise you end up wasting half of your piece of very nice watercolour paper. So you can get some of these inexpensive Strathmore cards, which has a nice texture, and you can paint on it. But yeah, it makes a better painting if you paint on this, I think. So you could just do your design and then cut it out and glue it onto there using Mod Podge or something. So that's what I think I would do. And yeah, so let's get started with painting. Here I've got my 48 set of Kuretake paints, which everybody's bored stiff with, probably by now. But you can't do better than this. You can't, sorry, Winsor & Newton. I would love it if you would sponsor me, but you won't, so there we go. Actually, I'm not sponsored by anybody, so don't take any notice of my ramblings. They're just ramblings of an idiot. Didn't Shakespeare say something about that? Yes, I'll have to look up that poem on Shakespeare. Anyway, so we're going to use these colours here. This is cadmium yellow, cadmium orange, burnt sienna. This, I don't know what they call it. It's dark brown. It's like burnt umber, olive green, and red. So we're going to use those colours. I don't think I'm going to be using very much red, but the other ones I will be. So I'm using a size 7 Draw Well Maestro round. I could just as easily be using a Princeton Aqua Elite size 8 I have here. You could use whatever you have. A round brush ought to be good enough. And what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to draw freehand. I'm not going to do any sketches. I'm just going to, I have an idea, I've drawn it out, practiced it on another piece of paper, and I'm going to try and more or less reproduce it. I've put water on all my paints here, which I hope you can see, yes. And quite a lot of water, actually, because this is a, what do you call it? This is a loose, not loose, no. This is being painted with a high ratio of water to paint. So when I pick it up and put it down, it sits up. Can you see that? So you've got a lot of water in your paint. So it sits up above the surface. Not sure how to show you that, but I think you can see it's running. You can see the beads running as I do that. So that's what you want. So you need a fair amount of water in your little Dubry, and this is one of the reasons why this particular set is so good, because it works very well for this. So then you're going to pick up some quite wet paint. You can mix it with a little bit of orange if you want. And then I'm going to paint very wet a stem like that. And if it's not quite wet enough, I'll drop some more paint in. And then I'm going to paint some leaf shapes. Very wet. You see that? See how wet that is? Very, very wet. There's a reason for this. And I'm mixing yellow and orange a little bit. Then I'm just going to drag the paint in lines like that. This is just purely graphic. Not that kind of graphic. The kind of graphic that is not realistic. Okay, so that's a piece of graphic. And then you can pick up some darker brown and put it in places. More than one shade of darker brown if you want. And you can let it do whatever it feels like doing. You can lift the paper up and let it run a bit more. And it'll only run where the paper is wet. So you can do it like that. You don't have to do that last step. You can just leave it wet and let it do whatever it feels like doing. And then the next thing I'm going to do is paint some very, very loose flowers. I'm using cadmium yellow. And I think we'll have 5 petals. And then I'm going to put some cadmium orange in on top. And we'll just let that do its thing too. Then we've got olive green here, I believe. So let's put some big old leaves here coming down with just a touch of yellow too, cadmium yellow. And we'll put the leaves in first and then just drag the stem down. This one's a bit too dark, so what we'll do is we'll use that paint for another leaf. And then we'll put one in here that's a little bit more yellowish. And you can do the same thing as you did on the open leaves if you want. Pick up a darker colour and just drop it in a couple of places. If you feel like unifying yourself up there. And meanwhile, we'll use some of that brown in the middle of the flower. Voila. And then let's do an orange one up here. There we are, nice and uneven. And then we want a little bit of red in the middle there because we need the next colour up from orange. So this one had yellow and orange. This one's got orange and red. I did use a little bit of it. Then we put some brown in the middle. Don't bother too much about anything particularly careful. And then we'll do another one here, maybe from the side, like that. And then the rest of the space that we've got there, in just a second, I'm just going to if you find it spreading a little bit too much, I've done this trick before, you've seen it often. If it's spreading a little bit too much, just stop it in its tracks. And put a little bit more orange in there. The less you can mess with it, the better. Okay, and then we want some more green leaves, empty leaves, I call these. So we'll put, and we might want another one on this branch here. But yeah, these empty leaves are quite stylish, I think. And make some of them go partway over, that's to say partway off the paper, for example. And you can put them everywhere. And then we can pick up some brown, and we can do some brown ones too. Same idea. And then you can have, for example, up here, you could have something hanging off the edge. If you think it's a bit too dark, as I do, press the paper towel on it, you get a nice texture. Palette, yes, whoops. Palette. Let's have a leaf coming on here, maybe two. And then this one obviously needs a stem, maybe a couple of leaves here, and maybe another leaf or two here, just to fill up the space. And then what you want to do next is, what we're going to do is we're going to put some fillers. I don't know what they call this in the world of design. I'm sure they've got a word for it. So just some of the spaces we will fill up with nice dots. It does something to the eye, I think, so that, I don't know, it just makes it a little bit more artistic. There we are. And then what I'm going to do is dry it off and come back and do the next thing. Okay, this is dry now. So first of all, before I do the next thing, I'm going to just put in some dots using my white pen. This is a Sigmo gel pen, Sigmo Uniball Sigmo, and we'll put in some irregular veins in these here leaves. They come out irregular because the paper is textured, but that's okay because I think that looks fine. And if you used ink and a pen, you know, a dip pen, for example, you'd get a different effect. And wherever you've got something nice and dark, you can add some light like that, which is quite nice. You can, if you want to go ahead and embellish the whole thing, you can do lots of other things. You know, you can do your spirals and things like that on your circles here, if you feel that they look better that way, and so on. That's it's definitely an option. And maybe it's a good idea just to do a few of them like that. And then you can, what I wanted to do with this one, because this is meant to be sort of greetings card for people, I'm going to take my Winsor & Newton Sepia, this is a 0.3 pen, and I'm going to write some words on here. And I'm going to just do them in my scruffy handwriting. I'm not going to try and do calligraphy or anything like that, because I'm not a calligraphist. But I've got a little verse from Shakespeare here, which goes like this. And what you do is you just meander it around the page. So you might want to turn it like this, and then you go, and all the sweetest flowers that grow. And then the second line is have all in my garden a show. There we are. So that's our message. The second part of that verse is, and when the sun shines out so bright, the colours of them shine so bright. But I don't think we need to do that. I think we're just going to leave it as it is like that. And then the next thing to do is to take it out of here, mount it on a card, and Bob's your uncle. So I shall do that, and I'll show you the end result in a second. So there we are. I have mounted it on the card, and now you can write your greeting on the inside. And I'm sure you'll find a much better way of developing this idea, but it's an idea, and particularly like the idea of the loose open leaves. I think that's very artistic, if you like. So today it's time to paint some daffodils. We've got daffodils in our garden, and this is some of they. And it's interesting to look at them because you can see they've got 6 petals and 1 large trumpet in the middle. And I'm going to have a go at painting them in a combination of watercolor and watercolor pencil, and you'll see what I mean in a second when we get started with the materials. I'm going to do a setting which is going to be something like this in a garden, and I'm going to add some bees and a beehive in the background instead of a tree. So this is some reference material from Canterbury Cathedral in England, and they're rather beautiful. You can see the light shining through them as well, whereas here it's just plain yellow. Now, to choose the colours, I'm going to my box of tubes here, which is my loose painting materials. I keep them in this separated tray like that. I've got my reds, my blues, my greens, my neutrals, that's to say browns and greys, yellows and black and white here. So we want to look at the yellows, and I'm going to select some yellows here, and then I'm going to put them in my little ceramic dishes, which I always use when I'm doing loose painting. 1 colour in a dish, and then I use my large butcher's tray to do the mixing on. So I'm just going to take my camera and fix it up here so that you can see me looking at these paints. So what colours are we going to want? Well, we need nice, clean, bright yellows for daffodils. So we probably want to discard things like yellow ochre. This colour here, yellow ochre. Because this is quite a dull yellow, and I don't think that will work. So we'll put that to one side. Naples yellow is opaque, so we don't want that. Now gamboge would be good because that's a nice transparent colour, but this is a cotton paint, so that means it's a student colour, and it's called gamboge hue, and hue means it's not actually gamboge. Gamboge is a true colour. So this is a sort of imitation. So ideally we wouldn't use that, but if that's all you had, that would be okay. Then we've got this one here is New Gamboge. That's a Winsor & Newton Artist's watercolour. So that's a pure colour, and that's a nice transparent yellow. So that's a definite possibility. This is an old tube. They call them professional colours now. They used to call them artists, but now they call them professional. I don't think they changed anything except the name. So I'm going to pop that one over there as possible for my palette of yellows. This is Aureolin. Aureolin is a transparent yellow. This again is an older tube. You can tell that by the fact that it's practically empty. And so I might swatch that one out as well and see what that looks like for these daffodils. A nice transparent yellow. This is a new tube. This is Scheveningen yellow. This is Old Holland. This is a light yellow, lemon yellow. So that is quite likely to be a very good colour. We'll see. Gamboge Genuine. So that's the same thing again. That's another bright yellow. We've got New Gamboge and Gamboge Genuine. This is Cadmium Yellow. Now, you can use cadmium yellow. You might want to use cadmium yellow, but just be aware that the cadmium colours are not 100% transparent, so they can get muddy. But we'll take a look at that one too, probably. Scheveningen Yellow Medium. That's another pure yellow, so we'll put that one over there too. Yellow Ochre, we said we didn't want. This is a quinacridone gold, but this one is not a good one at all. It's quite opaque, so I don't use that much. That was a mistake. Whereas this one is a Horadam Schminker Horadam quinacridone. That's good. We might want that. That's a nice transparent, more on the orange side. So that would kind of go towards the idea of, you know, perhaps the sheath of the, you know, this bit here. These papery bits here. You might want some quinacridone for that. Now I'm just coming to putting out my paints here, and so far I've got sap green, which is what I'm going to use for the leaves and for the stems and for the bases of the flowers. Then I've got cobalt blue, because sometimes you need to make the green a little bit bluer. This is Scheveningen Yellow Medium. This is Scheveningen Lemon. And I want to open this tube of Gamboge Genuine, but it's stuck. The lid is stuck. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it into very hot water just for a few minutes. Well, not even a few minutes, a few seconds will do. And to save my hands, because, you know, I think if I were a man, I might be able to do this without any mechanical aid, but I've tried and I can't. So I'm going to use my old pair of pliers or pincers, whatever you call them. And then it comes off really easily. No problem at all to get that off. And we'll see what colour this comes out as. I think this might do possibly for the shadowy areas. I'm not quite sure. It might work. Anyway, we managed to get that one to relinquish itself for posterity. So we'll put that there so I don't forget what it is. Take water away. And what else have I got? Some quinacridone gold. Probably a good idea here. And then I'm going to have a look at these colours quickly and see what I've got. So that's quinacridone there. Oh, and then the other one that we were going to look at was cadmium yellow as a comparison. If we can get it out, yes. A nice big tube of this, but it is only a cotton colour, so it's a student colour. This paper is quite yellowish, actually. So I think I'm going to try it out on a piece of whiter paper. This is the stuff I'm going to be using. This is Lavis Fidelis, which is an arches or arch paper. I can smell those daffodils. So that's the cadmium. Then this is lemon. You can see the difference, can't you? And this is Scheveningen. This is yellow, which is also different. Scheveningen yellow. Then this is Gamboge. Gamboge Genuine. And this is quinacridone gold. Something similar there, isn't it? Then we've got sap green. And cobalt blue. So those are the colours I'm going to be using. So we had cadmium yellow, which is somewhat opaque. Then we've got lemon yellow. Then we've got medium yellow. Then we've got this one here, which is gamboge. Then this one is quinacridone. This is sap green. And this is cobalt blue. If you haven't got sap green, you could use Windsor green. Same problem here. That's it. If it's really stuck, you need the water. If it's only slightly stuck, you can get away with just... See, now that's pretty vicious, that colour. As you can see, it's completely different from sap green. And I won't be using this because I have got sap green, so I'm halfway there. But if you mix that with something like new gamboge, you're going to get something like that, which is much closer to sap green. In fact, sap green even also needs a little bit of yellow in it to make it into a natural green. So it doesn't matter whether you start with Windsor green or sap green. If you start with sap green, you're a little bit closer to where you want to end up with a natural green once you've added your quinacridone or your gamboge or your lemon or your cadmium or whatever yellow. So that can go there. That's our guide. And then I'm going to put my colours on my butcher's tray, which is over there for the minute. We'll just pop those around the outside edge. Okay, so I've got my quarter sheet of Lavis Fidelis here. Any watercolour paper will do, and if you wanted to have it on a block, that's good. That'll stop it from cockling. But I don't think I'm going to be using a great deal of water for this, so it should be all right. Without taping it down, it should be. So I'm going to grab a pencil. Now, pencil, when I say I'm going to grab a pencil, I'm going to use a watercolour pencil to do the drawing with, so that when the daffodils are painted, the watercolour lines won't show, they'll blend in. Because if I use an ordinary pencil like this one, of course, it's going to show. And with the daffodils, you really don't want that. So these are some possibilities for drawing with. And I think I'll pick that one for the time being because it's got the longest point. And this is lemon yellow. So that's probably as good a place as any to start. I'm going to start off by drawing a beehive. So a beehive is like a little house, obviously. I'm using a regular pencil for this because this is not going to be painted in yellow. And this particular beehive is going to be a bit of a challenge when it comes to perspective. But if you want the sketch, you can get that for free from our website, dianeantone.com. Just pop on over there and you can download it for no charge. And so then there's little legs on the bottom and a little shelf there where the bees go in. We used to keep bees in the garden until a few years ago when we lost... There's a big problem with bees and they keep getting sick. So we struggled on for a bit, but then we gave up because we couldn't spend enough time on them. So there's the beehive. And then I'm going to, let me see, I've got my photo here of the daffodils. And I'm going to use that to give me some ideas. So, and I've got these wonderful daffodils right in front of me. So let's kind of sketch in. It might be that I need to use green so that you can see. I'm not sure if that's going to be visible. I'm going to get a light green. See how this goes. And we have a bud here. And we'll put another flower up here. We have them facing. And another one there, and maybe just sketching them in. We'll see what we want to do when it comes to painting them. I really don't much like planning things out too much in advance. And then probably I was thinking I would have some bees, but I'm going to take some liberties with scale because I can't paint them so small, can I? So we'll do them bigger than they really are. Somebody who watches the channel fairly often said to me that the way I draw bees reminded him of croissants. And that was really helpful, actually, because ever since then I've been very much more confident about how to draw a bee. So I think to myself, yes, it's just like a French croissant. Fold it up like that, and then you just pop the wings on. Of course, croissants don't have wings, but there we are. So we've got 4 bees there, beehive, and some daffodils in the front. So yes, so let's get started. question is, what do we start with? And I'm thinking I'm probably going to start with the flowers on the daffodils, and I'm probably going to start with the lightest colour. So we'll come in with the lemon yellow. One, two, three, four, five, 6. And we will have to put some shadow in, but you can see that the pencil isn't going to show, which is a really good thing. I'm not going to say that daffodils are easy to paint. I don't think they are, but they should be fun. They should be relaxed. They should be, I think, something that you enjoy doing, and it doesn't matter whether they turn out, you know, what's the word, like photographs or whatever. So just put a little bit of slightly darker yellow in there and let that run a little bit. Just go with the flow. You know, don't try to control everything, because you won't be able to. I think I might do the beehive now. I'm going to give the beehive a pale blue roof. The one we had a sort of metal roof, and so the best colour for doing that would have been cobalt blue. And then I'm going to paint the sides in a sort of slightly different shade of blue, mixed sap green with cobalt blue. You can pick any colour you like, but I just happen to have that to hand. And I'll put that here. Just keep it nice and loose. I'm painting these sections, and then we'll come in with some shadows in a second. Okay, so then imagine the sunlight is casting shadows underneath each of these louvers. And then maybe a little bit more blue on the roof, like that. That'll do for now. And now I'm going to paint the bees. So let's paint them. Let's use some cadmium yellow. Paint the. I like to think of them as being sort of stripy, like that. Paint the stripes in. Some bees have got black bottoms, and some have got more yellow bottoms. I'm going to need some black, aren't I? I think they're supposed to have black on their heads more, but whatever. We just keep them really simple because, well, I'm keeping them really simple partly because I'm trying to do it reasonably quickly so that you don't get bored and go away and watch Russell Brand. And, but not that there's anything wrong with Russell Brand, of course. Do I mention him too often? I think I possibly do. I don't watch him anymore, actually. I'm too busy watching Dean Roberts at the Canterbury Cathedral. Slightly different kind of spiritual guide. Okay, now when we're going to do the legs, I'm going to do those with pen because it's too fiddly otherwise, isn't it? So let's see if I can find a pen. Just let your hand shake when you do the legs. And I know they have 6 legs, but it always looks to me too clumsy if you put them all in. So I just say some of them aren't visible. And then if you want, you can do some sort of, because bumblebees tend to be a bit sort of, what's the word, spiky, furry. So you can just put some a little bit of that. Keep them nice and light. Okay, so now maybe we'll paint in some of these leaves. So we're going to be looking for sap green mixed with a little bit of blue and or a little bit of yellow. Oh, I forgot. We've got these buds here, so we'll do those first in green. And of course they're going to have nice yellow at the end. So you could start with the yellow like that and then add the green. It's probably a better way around to do it. Yeah, just lift that out a bit. Come back to our bluish green. The leaves are rounded at the top. It's actually quite surprisingly difficult to paint. Put in the stem there. Try and not control things too much. When you see the paint doing something that you quite like, just sort of let it. And then allow things to develop, whatever takes your fancy. If you suddenly think, I'd quite like to put some quinacridone gold in with the leaves, then then do it. Yeah, some of the leaves, you might want to paint them more green, more yellowish on this side and more bluish on that side. But you should have a bit of both on both sides. So you get a sort of natural blend. Right, so we want some dark green underneath here, probably. And we're kind of putting in the background, trying to be a little bit bold and brave. And imagine that we've got kind of lots of daffodils in the distance. So we've painted a few close up, but in the distance we're going to have more. So we're painting alternately green and yellow and blue. Different yellows. And then we're going to come down the bottom here, put some darks in. I'm getting to the point here where I'm probably going to have to let it dry. Soon. And see what's what. Okay, almost for sure I'll need a little bit more, just a little bit more definition here. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. Today we're going to paint a rabbit. This is my sketch of my bunny rabbit, and I'm going to do this in a wet in wet way, which is easy to do, and then we're going to embellish it a little bit as we have been doing recently. Of course, you don't have to do that. The sketch of this, the black and white line sketch, will be available on the website dianeantone.com for free if you want to just pop on over there and download it for free with all the other sketches and things that we have there too, if you would like. So let's get started. We've got a watercolor pad here. This is Etcher, cold press, 140-pound cellulose paper. This is nothing special. They sent it to me for free, so I might as well use it, as you do. Always like a free lunch, don't you? Right, so I've pre-sketched this in pencil, but I'm going to go over it so you can watch me, excuse me, drawing it. Now, I pre-drew this because these things are not necessarily always as easy as you would like them to be. I'm going to put a couple of curly hairs up top there. This is a motif which takes me back to my childhood. And I said to Tamsin today, for goodness sake, if I start to revisit my childhood too often, you're going to have to stop me. I don't want to be like your father, who lives in the past and has gone around in a circle and he's back where he started from. Anyway, so then I went ahead and thought about this rabbit. Now, this rabbit was when I was a little girl, I always wanted to be a commercial artist. When I was 3 or 4, I used to copy all the cartoons in the newspapers, and I used to say to my dad, Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be an artist and I want to draw cartoons for a living. And it never happened, obviously, as you can tell. But I used to draw Bugs Bunny, and I used to draw the Flintstones and all of them, and used to get a lot of pleasure out of that when I was little. And when I was in hospital a lot as a child. I used to have pneumonia and things like that quite often. I was a bit sickly. So when I was in hospital, I used to paint and draw and stuff like that. And sad story, isn't it? Sad. Anyway, so later on, when I went to grammar school, I remember one of my earliest memories there, we used to have a big canteen where we all had our lunch together, and we were all in tables of 12, and at the end of every table, there was a prefect, one of the senior girls, who was supposed to make sure that we didn't misbehave. And this one particular time, this prefect, who was a sixth former, she was entertaining us by drawing this rabbit. And I just fell in love with that rabbit, and I was about 11 at the time, and I used to draw it frequently on my books, you know, my school books and everywhere. And that rabbit has been with me ever since. And so here he is, just appearing from my past to entertain and amuse and be part of my world today. And so, yeah, funny, isn't it, how these things transpire. Haven't been feeling very well today. I felt all really rubbish this morning, and I've just finally woken up and it's nearly time to go to bed. Honestly, you can't win, can you? Right, so that's the rabbit sketched out in pen, and now we're going to make him wet. And grab a brush. I've got a Drawwell Maestro brush here, which is the next level up from the red ones that I normally use. This is slightly superior in quality. We're going to do this wet in wet, and we're just going to do it really loose and wait and see what we do, because I think this is quite fun, this is. So you just literally make the whole thing. We'll try not to go over his eyes, but if we do, we can always paint them in with white gouache afterwards. So I have avoided his eyes, but it's not crucial. If you don't avoid them, it doesn't matter. Using gouache in conjunction with watercolor is quite a nice thing to do, because you can always correct your mistakes if you're willing to come in there with a bit of gouache afterwards, or you can lighten things up, adding some white, you know, which watercolor doesn't work like that. So gouache will go on top of any watercolor mistakes, which you are bound to make. We all do, all the time. So now he's nice and wet. Now I've got my paints here, and I'm going to use a very limited palette. We've got quinacridone violet, we've got permanent rose, we've got cobalt blue and quinacridone gold. And that's what I'm going to use to paint my bunny rabbit. And it doesn't really matter what you put where. Doesn't matter at all, but you just drop the paint in like that, and don't brush it in, just drop it in. And this is where it's fun, because it just moves, right, like that, and does its own thing. So you can just do whatever colours you want. You could put some blue in here. Quinacridone is particularly good at moving. Or you could use ultramarine as well. That moves a bit better than cobalt blue. So we could put ultramarine in here, for example. And perhaps some pink on this side of his face. And at this stage, this kind of painting looks terrible. It really does. They look terrible, but have faith. Time for some more quinacridone, I think. We're going to make the carrot orange, obviously. So we'll put a base of quinacridone gold in there. And put some more around there. Maybe we'll put a bit here. And then we want the pink. Pink there, and I haven't really used the violet yet, so we'll put that here. Makes a nice contrast with the yellow. And we'll put some blue down here. And then I want some green, so I don't want that. I'm going to plunge into another palette just quickly there to get some green for the top of the carrot, which is going to be orange. I'll put some orange in there. So there we are. And since we are going to have to wait quite a while for that to dry, if I can find my little brush, first of all, I shall start with some black in the eye here. So that, oops, oh gosh, that shouldn't happen. Don't want that, do we? Mistakes do happen, and it doesn't matter. You can always put it right. Let's get that water flowing down a bit there. There we are, in the flow. Take that out of there. Don't worry, if you've got a piece of paper towel, you can put things right. Right, we'll try that again. I just wanted to put some black in there so that he doesn't look empty-headed. And we'll straighten those out a bit later. But okay, now we are going to let him dry. And we're going to try and let him dry as much as possible rather than forcing it dry with the, hairdryer. So we will pick up our pen again, and while we're letting that dry, we want to do a couple of bits and pieces. I'm going to put some butterflies up here. I'm going to switch to a smaller size pen. That was a 3, and I'm going to switch right down to a 0.05. There we are. And I'm going to embellish the rabbit afterwards, but before we get to that, I shall spend a little bit of time on doing line work on these. I've been investigating Zentangle and mandala drawing over the last few days. I'm not sure whether I have the patience to do either of those things because I'm a bit cack-handed and slapdash, a bit kind of if it'll do kind of thing. But maybe it would be good therapy for me. When I feel a panic attack coming on, I do that tapping thing. Have you heard of that? That tapping thing where you tap the top of your head and your neck and everything, and after a bit you stop thinking you're about to die. It's quite helpful. There's a lady called Sharon Smith on YouTube who does it, and I quite like what she does. I have a bit of, what do they call it? Post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm watching on television, Better Call Saul. Do you remember that? It's not that long ago. I think they just did another season, and we watched it a few years ago after we watched Breaking Bad. And I didn't like it at first because it wasn't Breaking Bad, but then I got used to it and quite like what do you call it? Saul. What's he call himself? Better Call Saul. Saul Goodman. Saul Goodman, yes. Oh, yeah. And since I saw that, I have developed this kind of fear of going outside. So I kind of relate to his brother doesn't want to go outdoors. I don't blame him. We've all had that with the pandemic, haven't we? This kind of thing is very therapeutic. It is definitely, it absorbs you completely. And it's definitely to be recommended. I'm just doing some flowers down here, which I'm just going to, when I paint them, I'm just going to paint them really, really loosely with just a sort of splodge. And I'm drawing with a 0.05 pen nib, which is very fine and gives very shaky lines, not, messy, scratchy sort of lines on paper, which has got this much texture, which is quite nice. So we'll put a few leaves as well here, coming up the back, and tall grasses, I suppose you could call them, rather than leaves. Right, I think that's probably spread quite a lot now, so I'm going to put the hairdryer on it and get it nice and dry. But first, I want to tell you briefly about Skillshare, who are sponsoring this video. Skillshare is an online learning platform with thousands of great classes to choose from. The class I'm looking at this month is Creative Meditation Zentangle Drawing by Casey Weber. This is an introduction to the Zentangle technique, which is helpful for me as I plan to learn how to tangle and to add tangles to my #PaintABirdADay series in the future. If you haven't already, check out our #PaintABirdADay on YouTube to get started. All Skillshare classes are ad-free and there are new classes every week, plus the whole catalogue is now available with subtitles in several languages. And because Skillshare is kindly sponsoring this video, the first 1,000 people to use the link in the description below will get a 1 month's free trial of Skillshare. Okay, so he's nice and dry now, so we are going to do some embellishments. I've got a Uniball Signo white gel pen, and I've got gold and silver as well in case I want to use those. Plus, of course, my microns that I've been doing the original drawing with. And if I need any more paint, I've got that at hand. But I, at this point, would switch to gouache. If I do any more painting, I have a palette set up here with all the different colours of gouache that I'm likely to need. And that's what I would use if I needed to do any painting on top of what we've already got there. So that's set up. Now, let me see. I'll grab this brush and just put a little bit of colour into these butterflies here. Excuse me, in case I forget. So we do a little bit of yellow and a little bit of pink. Just very light. Just so that there's something there. Okay, so let's see. We're going to put some spirals because I like spirals. So we'll start with spirals and maybe little flowers. But spirals are good. And we'll just sort of scatter them around. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. And if you've used, like I have, a fairly rough paper, you will have to put up with a certain amount of jumping with the pen, because the rough paper doesn't really like pen all that much, does it? And This is the kind of thing you can do when you are watching television or just generally hanging out, doing nothing, relaxing, lying in bed, watching the birds. Well, you can't really paint and watch the birds at the same time, can you? Yeah, you know. I was teaching myself today how to do paisley patterns. I think it's better if you do it in black, but it's something like that. So we would do some white, like that, and then maybe we might switch to the black, fine one. I quite like doing black into the white. I think it gives a sort of a little bit of a kind of antiqued kind of look, you know, sort of, for some of them, not all of them, kind of, oh, you know, faded and sort of bashed about, like me. And what was I going to say? Oh, yes, eyelashes. This bunny has definitely got eyelashes. And, oh, yes, white teeth. And the carrot, the jumbo carrot, needs a little bit more detail in the leaves. And I think I'm going to put a tiny bit more orange paint on there for the carrot. And like I said, this is where you can come in with a bit of gouache. Just emphasize the shape a bit, emphasize the colour. And maybe for the leaves as well. And the flowers. And he needs whiskers, or she does, rather. Whiskers. Let me see. What else can we do? Oh, yes, I haven't finished this. She's curly hair on top. And maybe we might do a few on the ears. makes quite a lot of difference when you do this kind of thing. I think it is sometimes an improvement. And don't forget to finish off her feet with the nice chubby little paws that she's got. Notice that she has become a girl. I really like her chubby little hands too. And you could go on forever doing this, couldn't you? You can, if you want to emphasize the colour of the flowers, I honestly think it's a good idea to mix up some pink and white gouache, like this, and then you can just paint on the inside. You have to get the consistency right, but you can, and the colour. That's the trouble when you have too small a brush. Sometimes gouache doesn't flow very well, but eventually you'll get the consistency right, like that, and then you can do sort of a tonal variation. Just come in there with the darker pink. And I want to say that I'm learning this along with you because I am not an expert in gouache, but I do know what I'm doing when it comes to watercolor. So I can help you learn to paint gouache too. So we can learn together. So you can do that. And I think maybe this foot down here needs a little bit of something, doesn't it? A little bit of something. Yeah, I think we are getting there. We are definitely getting there. We are getting there. We need a tiny bit of something nice and pastel-y. A nice pastel green, blue, something like that for the floor, ground. Pop that into these leaves too because they were a bit faint. And these ones here need some colour. Put some more hearts in here. And I think we are getting there. I think we are getting there. The nice thing about doing these embellishments is that if you feel that you've made a mistake or you're not quite happy with the way it goes, the way it went rather, you can correct it using the pen. And using the gouache, come to that. For example, if you wanted to reduce the angle of the top of her head. It's one of my weaknesses is the tops of heads. I always get them wrong. So you can correct that. Like that. And then her ears become a little bit longer. There we are. I'm not going to fiddle anymore. Now, today I'm going to do something which, according to Tamsin, I haven't done before, which is to do a painting with a flat brush. And I usually use, as you know, I usually use for my paintings, no matter what the subject, I use a round brush. I've just recently acquired these Princeton Aqua Elites, which are really nice. And because they have a nice sharp point and everything, you can get lots of detail, and there's nothing wrong with those brushes. And anyway, I thought to myself, I need to do something a little bit more challenging. I want to challenge myself a little bit. So I woke up this morning thinking about flat brushes. Oh, it's a sad life, isn't it? So I've pulled out a selection of my flats here to have a quick look at with you. Now, a flat brush obviously is what it says. It's got a flat ferrule. In other words, the round ferrule that is on a brush like this and is the same all the way around because it's round, has been compressed, squashed flat to hold the hairs in a sort of flat format. This one is a 1/2 inch. When you want to see what size these brushes are, this is a 1/2 inch because the ferrule measures 1/2 inch across the base there. You don't measure it at the top because that might vary. This is a 1 inch, as you can see there, across the base. If you measured it at the top, it would be 1.5 inches, but it's not, it's 1 inch. This one, I think, is a 3/4 inch. Yeah, that's 3/4 inch. And that is a flat, but it's an angled flat. And that has particularly specific uses. And this is a 1/2 inch flat, a 3/4 inch flat as well. This one's from Zen Art. It comes in a set of 5, which you can find online. This one is by who? This is by who? By whom is this made? I cannot read it. Can you read that? Gold Sable Angular. That's what they call that, a Gold Sable Angular. It doesn't say what make it is. This one says a Gold Sable Series 800. I think they must be made by the same people. I have a feeling these are American. If anyone has got the same brushes and they know what make they are, do let me know. This is a Drawwell from my little man in Japan, Mr. Mayama, and that's what that is. And this one is a big one. This is a Hake or Hake brush, Ron Ranson Pro Art, made by Pro Art for Ron Ranson when he designed this. And this is the equivalent of this, but hairier, it's fatter. When it's wet, it does go into a much nicer sharp line when it's actually soaking wet. I'm not sure if I can make it do it. Hang on a minute. Dripping water all over the place. When these have been well used, you can acquire a sharp point. Not a sharp point, a sharp edge. But this one hasn't been used very much, so it doesn't really want to do it. But you can see I'm getting there. Anyway, enough blathering. The benefit of using a brush that's too big for a piece of paper is that it'll make you paint more loosely. So that's what I'm planning to do today. I'm going to use this one on a piece of paper which is A4 size, so that's about 20 by 30 centimeters, I think. And this is a piece of Canson Etival, Clairefontaine Etival paper by Canson. Canson is the biggest manufacturer of paper in Europe. They own Arches and pretty much everybody. I think they might even, I'm not going to say that, I don't know. But yeah, big company. So I'm going to sketch on here using, I'm going for big stuff today. This is Polytechnic big fat lead here. You see how fat that is? So that will give me a nice loose drawing. And I'm going to use a photo that I found on the internet as a photo of a vase of flowers. And I'm just going to sketch it roughly. And I'm not going to draw any of the flowers. I'm just going to draw the outline of the bouquet. So it goes up into the top right like that. It's got various daisies here. I probably ought to show you the picture, come to think of it, since I don't know if you can see that. It's this picture here, and I'm simplifying it. So that's just literally a starting point. I'm going to simplify that. And one flower out here, a few leaves, and a leaf over here or two, and the daisies are down here, and then we've got the stems coming down into a jar, which is here. That's a bit too high. I'm going to grab I'm going to get a rubber, an eraser, and just rub that out because that's not quite right. I need some more stuff down here. Bring these in a little bit. And I think you could say this is probably a milk bottle. And I'm going to put a lemon down here. Okay, so this is just a rough thing. And then I'm going to use my Kuretake set. Which is this one. But I won't be using very many colours on here. I'll probably be using the blue, ultramarine blue, that is. Olive green. Cadmium yellow. That wasn't a meaningful cough. That was just a clearing of the throat. Excuse me. That's, stop it, cobalt violet. And what else? Perhaps sap green deep. And having done that, you've got these here like this, and you can see what a nice range of colours that makes. That's a good palette to use for what we're going to do. So I'll just swatch those so we can see how well they go together. So that's ultramarine blue. That is olive green. This is cadmium yellow. That's cobalt violet. And this is sap green deep. So there's nothing jarring there about those colours. They work well together, I think. And so that's what we're going to use. I'll get rid of that. Now, put that there. And what I should do is I should wash my palette Okay, so we have a sketch which has just got kind of outlines on it of where things are going to go. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by painting a little bit of background. So painting some negative shapes. So I'm going to come in from the top. And what I'm also going to do is get rid of that. That's annoying. And paint round the outside edge of the picture. Add a bit of water, and I'm using the brush sideways on. So kind of painting with the corner of it. And coming down here, I'll go round the bottle and round the lemon. And just leave that all very loose. And then up here, we'll go round, just kind of dashing in very slightly and lightly. And then bringing in some more water. Like that. So I've basically surrounded my sketch with blue, light blue. Okay. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some of the cobalt violet, and I'm going to just indicate loosely the flower shapes here, using again the corner of the side of the brush. And I put these mostly into where the paper is still dry, but somewhat, so like here, for example, but it'll go over into where it's wet, so it'll run a little bit. And down here, we're going to have a little flower sticking out like that. And we've got that one, and we'll put another one here. And maybe a little bit behind there. Not too much. That's the first layer. And then I'm going to wash my brush out and pick up some, this is olive green, isn't it? Olive green light. And then I can use the sharp edges. It's razor sharp, really. The sharp edge of the brush we can use to do lines like this. So where the stalks come down into the water, we can do them like that. Just using the side of the brush. Not the side, it's not the point, is it? It's the flat of the brush. Then up here, we might have some stems going out like that. And then going back to the corner of the brush, we might have some bigger leaves coming out like that. Might want it a little bit darker. Can always add a bit of that green in. And thing is not to be too pernickety. And this particular photo had there's a photo of a live setup of a still life. It had a long leaf going out at the side there. But most of the rest of it I've made up. I like that long leaf, so I put that in. But most of the rest of this I'm just I'm making it up as I go along. And so we'll drop in some green dots in the background there. Maybe that could be something like Queen Anne's lace or whatever. And then just a couple of just almost like stenciling, really. And here we've got daisies. So I'm just going to kind of go round where the daisies would be. And then I'm going to pick up some yellow and just put the centres of the daisies in where I think they are going to look okay. Like that. And up here, perhaps there might be a bigger yellow flower, and maybe up here a bigger yellow flower too. Okay, and while I've got yellow on the brush, we'll paint the lemon. And then we'll go back to the green and add to some of these stems a little bit. Add a little bit to some of the undersides of the leaves, a bit slightly darker green, perhaps. And let's put some stems going up here. And now at this point, I'm going to switch back to the ultramarine blue, quite loose, quite weak. And I'm just going to go round where I forgot to put the yellow there, just where's that here? So just putting a little bit of very light shadow in around these flowers. Very light, very delicate. Okay, now back to the green, perhaps. And maybe we will take a few more stems up here. And another thing that you could do, which I'm going to do, is just drop in a few bits and pieces up here into the blue. And down here as well. Little, so like, I don't know, little small things. Strengthen up the green a little bit there. And now go back to the violet, still with the corner of the brush. Where it's dried a bit, you can make it a bit darker. Let's put one there as well. If you feel it doesn't look quite right, just put a bit more in. And then at this point, I think maybe we might want to just strengthen a little bit more negative painting around here. Strengthen the blue a little bit. The brilliant thing about the big brush, the flat, is that it removes your ability to be precise. So if you suffer from over tightness, try painting this way. Use a bigger brush than what you think you should. Okay. Right, having got to this point, I'm now going to do a radical thing, and I'm going to swap from that big brush to this crazy thing, which is a sword liner. You can get these from Rosemary & Co. I think they have quite a good range of these sword liners. I've got two here that are different sizes. One's a bit bigger than the other one. You can tell that from the handle, but more or less the hairs are more or less the same. It's quite long. This must be 1.5 inches at least. Yeah, I would say it's 1.5 inches. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to do some calligraphic marks to delineate the shape of these here flowers. So I'm just going to very casually attempt to draw around the daisies, just so we can see where the petals are. Because as you know, it's always very difficult to paint white flowers. So we'll just make a virtue of this problem and turn it into something else. And then up here, we're going to start to play. Just putting in calligraphic marks. And I think I want some brighter, darker yellow. Also in the middle, I might need to just pick up a tiny bit of orange to darken the yellow a bit. There we go. And while I'm at it, I'll darken the lemon. A little bit more here in the way of it. You'll get some very lovely random shapes when you use this sword liner brush. And I think we need some little bit of dark up here. Trying to keep it really light and open. And we need some sharp contrasts, so consequently this brush is perfect for that. And a few more stems down here. Maybe I might just pick up a little bit of blue to go around the bottle. Okay. Another thing you could do, of course, is you can pick up some light colour and you can just drop in a few spatters. I think Charles Reed was the innovator when it came to spatters, wasn't he? Maybe we put a little bit more blue in there in the background just to darken that down a little bit. And I think it probably needs a leaf or two coming out here. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to say I'm not displeased completely with that. Give it a try, see what you think. Today we're going to do some super quick little cards, and these are going to be based on an idea which was provided to me, and I've asked her permission and she's okay with that, by Carolyn, I think Carolyn Doughton, I think that's how you pronounce her name, is that right, Carolyn? She sent me some lovely little gifts, and they came with these two little cards, which I think are absolutely lovely. And I asked her if it'd be okay to show people how to do something like that. So I'm going to do my version, which is going to be a little bit different, but pretty much the same. So I'm just going to put those to one side. And I think I'd make a lovely little card, just pop in with a gift like Carolyn did. So I've got a piece of paper here. This is watercolor paper of an anonymous type. You know how sometimes you might find a piece of paper somewhere in your paper drawer and you haven't got the faintest idea what it is because it's become separated from its parents and has no known name. So anyway, this is a piece of that, and I'm just looking for my bone folder, which, like so many of the things I possess, is always disappearing. So instead of that, I'm just going to use my thumb to push that down like that, and then I find my paper knife, my envelope opener, and I'm just going to do that. And that gives us a nice raw edge, nice deckled edge there. So we can then fold this in half to make a card. I'm going to find that bone. Here it is. There we are. So if you want to, you can use a ruler and score here before you fold, but I don't think we need to really do that for something as ordinary as this. So what I normally do is fold it like that, press it with the bone folder, and then turn it the other way around so you get a nicer edge. It's better edge than the one where you folded it, see? So that makes that the outside of the card. And obviously you can have there won't all be deckled edges, but anyway, so that's okay. And then the other things that you're going to need, as well as a bone folder and an envelope opener, is a large round brush, like this one. This is a Drawwell brush from Japan. Any round brush would do. That's a size 14, and quite a big one. My biggest, I think that is. Could use any brush though, really, it doesn't matter, because all you're going to do is use it to spatter with. And I've got a pigment liner, a 0.5 millimeter pigment liner there from Stettler. So, okay, this is a super quick exercise and super relaxing and easy to do. First thing you have to do is just simply think of what shape vase you want. And the one I did first is a kind of nice, tall kind of oval shape. And I'm doing it deliberately wonky because all the best things in life are wonky, as I'm sure you will agree. So then we've got it standing on a table, and we just do some squiggly lines like that. And then we're going to we're going to draw in very randomly some stems like that. And then we'll put some circles using my pen very, very freely and loosely, and trying not to make them too even, and a few dots and a few more lines. And that's that. So absolutely, completely and utterly rough. Then I'm going to take my brush, and here I've got my selection of basic paints. And for this one, all I did was I picked up some cobalt blue. This is cobalt blue here, quite nice and light. I think this probably works best if it's not too concentrated. And then just drip it by tapping onto your flowers where the flowers are, like that, until you've got what you think is probably enough. And then what I did, bearing in mind this is, you know, not something I've done much of before, then I just washed out my brush a bit and then just put a little bit of blue in there for the water, just kind of random, and we'll let that sort of settle. Don't like that bit there. There we go, let that settle. And then the other colour that I used was quinacridone gold, and the exact same thing. Plenty of water and a few spatters like that. And on Carolyn's ones, she used a lot more spatter, and I think that looks also really cool, but I don't think you don't have to have as much as that. And being as I'm a bit of a lazy bones, I didn't do that. And then I got my toothbrush and I just did quite a bit of light spatter in blue. Then we did the table, and you could say that could be brown. If you can find any, it'd be useful. What is it? Got my Viviva colours here. Let's see what we've got here. Autumn leaf. That sounds a bit brownish. Oh no, not really. Have to add something to that to make that. Golly. What colour shall we make that then? What's this? Earth brown. Nope, don't like that. Tree bark. Nope, too dark. It's very important to get the right colour, isn't it? Ink blue. What about ink blue? They're all too strong, those colours. I'm not going to use any of those. Let's do it in green. Maybe like that, perhaps. Then you could drop in some just plain water so that they blend a little bit. And then what I did last time, my wonderful experience of doing this, I just put in some more stems, allowing it to kind of just drag the paint a bit like that. And then I think probably need a little bit more. Every one of these that you do is going to be completely different from the previous one. Like I say, Carolyn did hers quite heavily spotted. And so there we are. That's that one done. I'll put that aside to dry. And it's possible that when it has dried, you might want to... oh yes, this is one thing that I did notice actually, because this paper is incredibly not absorbent. I don't know what it is. I did feel that sometimes the paint was just sitting too long on the surface. So just use a bit of paper towel to suck that up a bit. Okay. So there we are, that's card number 1. We'll pop that over there to dry. And I'll have a go at another one. And this time I might do it with a lot more colour. I'm going to try and do one like Carolyn did. So I have a go at doing one just like hers. And she's got see what happens if you let your pen sit. Okay, so let's do a nice wonky vase and a tabletop. You could put patterns on here. You could do a tablecloth with stars on it if you wanted to, or anything like that. And then we're just going to do exactly the same thing again. You could choose to have your stems kind of asymmetrical, a bit like that, perhaps, if you wanted to. Just making this up as I go along. And then we're going to start, we'll start with blue again. And this time I'm going to do it slightly differently, just because I'm experimenting. Actually, I'll just open that up. And I'm going to put a lot of little blue dots, like that. And I'm going to put a brown. I'm going to find some brown. Burnt sienna or something like that. I'll just put that for the base, tablecloth, whatever. And we do the water. And the more you can use a light touch for this, the better, really, and not be afraid of anything going wrong, because how can it? I'm going to put perhaps a little bit of green in there, and maybe some green in the top here. And then some yellow, quinacridone gold. And where it hits the blue, you got nice green. And you have to be patient with this and not fiddle with it too much to let it dry. So we put a little bit more brown down here, make this a bit more. And then we'll let that one dry too. Oh yes, the other thing that I did a minute ago was, it's another idea, this Kuretake gold starry colours. Just put a few of those on. A little bit of gold. I did that on this one. And when that dries, that actually looks really quite nice. Quite like that. So I'm going to go away and leave that to dry. Start thinking about dinner, and we'll see what it looks like when we come back. And at the moment we seem to be having some quite nice results. Super quick. Okay, so I've let this dry for a little while, and I'm going to come back in now because, as I said, I wanted to make this a little bit more like one of Carolyn's. So I'm going to add some more. She has hers kind of really beautifully multicolour. So there's red to go in like that. And then I think she's got quite a bit of yellow. She's She's actually using a sort of lemon yellow. So we'll see if we can find some of that. Put some bigger sploshes in as well. Be careful not to let them go muddy. And this is going to take a little while to dry because it's quite wet, but I think that that's going to be quite nice. So we really will leave that for the minute. And oh yes, and I did think that the tablecloth needed a bit more colour. So we'll leave it like that. Today, Tamsin brought into the studio this morning some pussy willow. And it's kind of like the first sign of spring here. Let's make that into focus. And perhaps you can see anyone who lives in England will be very familiar with these. As children, we always used to pick them and bring them into the house. First sign of spring, and of course Mum would say, take that rubbish out. That's going to drop pollen all over the place. Anyway, but we used to love it. And so we've got some of that today, and I thought, well, that would be a good thing to paint. Remember a little while ago we did this. Now let me see, where is it? Just a second. We did this painting. And we used a dropping water onto the page kind of thing. So I did blobs of water like that, and then put colour in, let it spread, and then put a stem down the middle like that. That's not the actual one that I did on the video, but that gives you the idea. And somebody said, oh, that reminds me a bit of pussy willow. So I thought perhaps we could use that technique. Meanwhile, before she'd brought in the pussy willow, I had done a painting like this using that same technique. So I'm just going to probably swap from this small sketchbook to a larger one. This is the Canson XL Mixed Media sketchbook, which is nice paper. It's got quite a strong grain, a sort of horizontal laid grain, but it's been developed for students, but it's also very, very strong, hardy, can't be destroyed paper. That's what I need. I'm not going to draw. I probably should, but I'm not going to. What I'm going to do is take my pen, straighten up the camera a little bit so you can see better. There we are. And I don't know. I think I'll just go for it. So let's call this a bouquet, and we'll just drip water on here. Not exactly spattering, but just dripping. And we're not exactly following the, not necessarily following the layout of Pussy Willow completely, but just using it for inspiration. Okay, so we have that. And then we're going to go for some darker brown. And I'm using my Kuretake Art Nouveau here, but I'm also probably just faffing around over here a little bit. Oh, dear. Looking for a darker brown, so we'll have a darker brown as well. Because the stems are quite dark, that's not dark enough. And it's nice the way the paint, when it goes through the droplets, runs all over the place. And then we can put darker areas at the bottom where they sort of connect. Some of them will work better than others if we're going to be judgmental, but we're not, are we? And then, so the next one, I think I need a bigger brush. I'm going to do some green ones. And the nice thing about these Kuretake colours is that they are soft, so it's quite hard to do something garish, which is what we hate, isn't it? The idea of doing something garish. So that's a green one. Don't go that way, go that way. And then we'll need our brown again. And this one has got sort of a little thingy what's-its going off to the side. Now the one that I did as a tryout this morning, I finished it off with ink, but I don't know whether I'll do that with this one. Okay, so then we might have one over here. There's a couple there, not many. They're very pale green, almost not green. So we just put those in there. Oh, that's a nice colour. I'd like to paint my kitchen that colour. And then the stem was a bit more reddish on this side. And we'll bring that down. So there, and then it had little green bits here. When you want to do something spring-like like this, you don't want it to be too heavy, do you? Or too wee. Or too random. Perhaps that's a bit too much. Suck that up and put a little bit more green in there, I think. Okay, and then down nearer to the bottom, let me just dab that water droplet off. And we have, at the bottom, we've got some little white daisies, which probably be best to put in afterwards using pen, perhaps. And then we've got lots of down here. I'm not sure if that brush is going to work. It doesn't seem to have much of a point. Does it have a point? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, that's fine. So we'll just come in with some fine stems and a few fine little delicate leaves. Very important to have the contrast, I think. I'm just wondering how to do the little white flowers. Maybe I'll do them in very light blue, or a sort of, yeah, so, I mean, they're just, yeah, I think probably a very pale grey is probably the best for them. So I'm mixing white with that blue there. And put one in here, I think. And if we just connect them a little bit. There we are. Okay, so that's really it's about all there needs to be for this, I think, at this point. So what we should do now is try it, come back and decide whether or not we're going to put some line work in there. So that's dry now, and I think I am going to do some line work on it. So I have got a sepia pen here, Winsor & Newton 0.3 millimeter sepia, and we'll start off by using that. And I think the way I'm going to do this is I'm not going to follow around the line. Think of this as being reverse colouring book sheet, right? You could do this as a reverse colouring book and then put in the line work afterwards if you wanted to. So I'm looking at my original here, which I have in front of me. But of course, if you don't have any pussy willow in your vicinity, you could obviously look at a picture online. It's wonderful, isn't it? You can do that. And then you want to try and get yourself into a nice, relaxed state and start to basically doodle. So these are the sort of little buds that are sitting on the stem. And then there are bigger ones that come out, and they've got really fluffy sort of furry kind of, quite big actually compared to some of them. And we'll just put the fur in. Don't want to make them look too much, although we used to call them little furry bears, didn't we? You don't want to necessarily make them completely covered in hair, but they are fairly hairy looking, but that kind of gives the idea. And as you go further up, you know, you might pretend that there's a leaf up there, for example, or just put another one in. And they are green, so it doesn't matter if they're not on the brown bits. They are green, so put another one there. And another one here. And another one up here. I forgot I should have taken a photograph of what I had before I started, but I haven't, so... Oh, that's wet. These pens do not like to work on wet, so I'll just dry that off and just do that. Okay, and so then down here we've got these little flowers which have got kind of yellow centres, so we'll just kind of scribble around them a little bit like that. I think I preferred them before, but probably what we'll have to do is put a bit more colour in there, but that's okay. And so that's that one. And this one doesn't have those furry things. It's just got sort of much softer fur. And the way I tend to do this is just to sort of emphasise what's already there. Make some lights and some darks, you know. You could take a lot of time over this if you wanted to. Or if you're like me, you can just go with the flow, do it as fast as you feel makes any sense. And you think that then by the time you got to the end, you just about started to get to grips with it. Has anyone found that instant coffee gives them a sort of lump in the throat? I've just been given some instant coffee. I don't normally drink it. And I've noticed, I just had a cup of it, and I've suddenly realised I've got a kind of feeling as if I haven't quite managed to swallow right in my throat. And anyone out there noticed that? Or is it just me? Maybe I'm allergic to instant coffee. Because it was quite nice mixed with a bit of chocolate powder, but I can't drink it if it's going to do that to me, can I? Okay, now these ones over here are those spiky ones again. But, you don't have to do what's in front of you, do you? You can do whatever you like. So first of all, I think I'm just going to emphasize these little fine leaves a little bit down here. I think something like this would make a nice card. Don't you? And or bookmarks. It's nice if you're sending things to people who are a long way away at Easter, or I think that needs a flower. Does it need a? No, it doesn't. It's nice to send a bookmark and a card. I think makes a nice little gift, if you know people who appreciate it. Okay, so this one has got a few leaves. So I'm going to take advantage of that and draw in some leaves. Don't worry too much about following the lines that you've put in, just make it up as you go along. And down here we've got sort of little furry things again. And don't want to pay too much attention to the detail. This is quite nice, this pen, because when you go over it, it goes darker, which is quite nice. It gives you a bit of shadow. And that's always a good thing to have. So put that in behind your leaves and they'll stand out a bit better. There we are. Another leaf there. Maybe we'll just do a dash one here. And at the top here, we've got lots and lots of little leaf type things at the top. Okay. So then we might sort of draw back a bit, have a look what we've done, and we might say, well, we want to strengthen the dark in the stem a little bit, and I remember it had little sticky out things, buds, I suppose you'd call them. And so we'll put some of those in. And then the bottom of these have got a kind of, I think it might be called a calyx, something like that, I don't know. So we can do that if we want to make it a little bit darker down the bottom. And this one in the middle, that had more of a kind of shell around it. Right, well, I think I'm going to probably call that a day, more or less. So that's a little demonstration, I suppose you'd call it, of loose pen and ink. Very loose. Yes, Catkins. Pussy Willow sketch. First page of my sketchbook. You don't need to make a big fuss about it, do we, or a drama. Don't you think people are slightly dramatic these days, slightly over-dramatic about everything having to be so, so special? This is the most wonderful thing you've ever seen. Rubbish, of course, it isn't. Hardly. Well, Easter's coming. You wouldn't believe it when you consider the weather. So I thought it was about time we better make an Easter card, don't you think? So I've got this little idea here seems appropriate to me for a chick. Quick squiz there. You can stop the camera if you want, but I'm not going to give it all away before we start. So the first thing we need to do is to draw a shape for a chick, and chicks are kind of egg-shaped. So I've got here a template that I've made. What I did was I printed out on the internet this, and I copied it onto a piece of paper, and I printed it out as 3 egg shapes like that in 3 different sizes, and then I've cut them out. And this works really well because you can either draw around the egg shape like that, just draw around it, or if you want to do spatter or something like that, you can put the template, so you've got like a stencil, and you just spatter or fill it in or whatever over there. So that's sort of a double, it works as a double thingy, what's it? Anyway, I'm going to use this shape as the basis for my chick. I'm not drawing an egg, I'm doing a chick. And because I want to do it as quickly and easily as possible for you. So basically what you do to do this chick, you're basically going to draw an oval like that, an egg-shaped thingy. And then what you're going to do next is you're going to sit down and you're going to put in the eyes. And we put the eyes really big and really quite high. And put the pupils there. And then we're going to put in some floofy wings at the side, like that. And then we're going to just bring down a leg here, give him a nice knee and feet. And is it a girl or is it a boy? You can't tell, when chicks are born, or hatch rather. You can't tell whether they're boys or girls. It's a great problem for the owner of said chicks. Give him a nice little tail at the back there. And then I'm going to have him standing on a sprig of some kind of leaf, perhaps. Something coming around here. I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that yet. So there we are. And now we'll paint him or her. I'm using a piece of watercolor paper here. I don't know what it is, to be quite honest, but it's relatively thick, £140 or something like that. And I've just folded a piece of it in half. I think I've got a little pencil mark there. I don't want to just rub that out. Okay. Let's see how this goes. So I'm using my Kuretake colours, and this is a bright lemon yellow colour. Could be cadmium yellow also, probably is. It's very bright. Wow, almost hurts your eyes. It's so bright. And I'm putting it on reasonably thickly so that it's nice and intense. And we'll just paint more or less around the eyes. This is one that would definitely work for children, I should think, to do. And I'm going to do doodles on him when he's dry. So we put the wings in. And let's just put some yellow on his tail feathers like that. So there we are. That's the yellow part done. And we'll pick up some sort of darker yellow, orangey colour. Not too orangey, but a little bit. And we'll just put some shadow in down the bottom there. All quite rough. A little bit on the wings as well. And then we want to pick up some brown for his little legs, for his little knobbly knees. Just paint those in. And we'll use the same colour, I think, for his mouth. Now, he can have a little bit of fluff coming off his head, but he's not got a comb, that's the word. He's not got a comb because he's still too young. So I'm going to make that a little bit darker, perhaps. There we are. And then I'm going to get some green paint. And I don't know what colour green to use, really. I don't know what this is going to come out as, but it's fairly dark, and I'm going to put it on fairly thick. And just come right the way around him, like that. And then we'll put some leaves. On there. Okay, now we need to let that dry. And, oh, I could put his little eyes in, couldn't I, using some black paint. Let me let it dry and come back and do some doodles. Okay, so that's nice and dry now. And I'm going to start with a brown pen. This is the Winsor & Newton brown fine liner. And the first thing I'm going to do, I think, is to basically very loosely go around the outside of the chick. I'm not really following the pencil lines exactly, just kind of scooching over them a little bit, so can't really see them anymore. And just draw in his tail there, and then his knobbly knee legs, like that. Okay, and his feet, and go around his mouth, or her mouth, and perhaps we go twice around the eyes, or 3 times in this thin. This is a 0.1 thickness, so it's quite thin. And then we've got various things that we can do at this point. You could either just leave it like this and perhaps do some embellishment on the leaves. So you could put in your veins and maybe some dots. I think dots always look good on leaves. So like that, perhaps. Something like that. And you could put some dots if you wanted to on the stem as well, maybe. Entirely up to you. And then I probably think it's quite a good idea to outline the leaves. You don't have to do that, but you might feel you want to. But don't be too accurate about it. Just like that. And then what we can do if we want to is we can basically doodle all over our painting. So you can do it in any colour you like. You can do it in brown or black or both. Let's find some black. You want a thin one. You don't want to use thick, but you could probably get away with 0.3. Oh, wait a minute, that's brown. Don't want that. 0.5, 0.1. There we go. And we can do, this is a bit like, we did some doodly birds, didn't we, last year? So we'll put some flowers on, just kind of like that. And what else could we put? We could put little sunshine like that, maybe. We could have, what could we have? Well, you can always fall back on the good old spiral. You could have little heart shapes. That seems appropriate for Easter. Little heart shapes. And you could have, oh, I don't know. That's about it really, probably. And we might want to, oh yes, embellish up here a little bit. We can come round here and make that look a bit better. Last night, just as we were leaving the studio, what was it, about 10 o'clock, I think, I had a big frame. I think it's about 2 foot by 1.5, about 18 inches by 24 inches. And it was with glass, and it was sitting at the near the door. And I'd been thinking about it all day and thinking, oh, I must put something in that frame because it's just sitting there. And it's an expensive frame, so it ought to have something in it. But I didn't get round to it for one reason or another. And just as we were going out of the door last night, there was this almighty crash. And we thought, what? Something like that. So we went back inside and we found that one of the cats, I think it was Frankie, had knocked it over. Well, he hadn't. He'd just broken it. The glass was smashed to smithereens. And the frame was still standing there upright, as if nothing had happened. So I honestly don't know what did happen. I have no idea. So having done that, I'm now going to just put some colour on top of these little shapes and hope it doesn't. Oops. Oh, it's not supposed to run. It's supposed to be waterproof. Whoops. Okay, well, we won't do much of that then. Oh dear. Hang on a minute. I'm going to have to dry that and start again. Well, I don't know what's going on there. So I'll do my little hearts again. That is literally not supposed to happen. Oh well. I'll tell you what I'll try then. I'll try the brush pens and see how they go. I don't know what that's all about. It's not supposed to happen. That's okay now. Well, anyone could explain that to me? I should be interested to know. Okay, now the white, perhaps. I'm going to come in with some dots. There we are. So I think that'll do. I think that's done. And all that remains to be done is to write on it somewhere, Happy Easter, I suppose, or whatever wish you wish to wish. It would have to be down here, wouldn't it? And so we would write something like, That's original. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of warm-up first before I start painting this Magnolia with a Chickadee perched on it. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I just thought I'd do this. This is the palette that I normally work on that I left when I went away 2 weeks ago. It's not got very much paint on it at all, but that's fine because what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this Tintoretto brush, which I got as a gift from A Gallo paints in Italy, and I'm going to use some of the colours that are on this palette. I'm just going to wet them and make them into a kind of random, totally random. I'm all very fond of random colour, and then I'm going to use that to sketch. And what I've got here is a photo. Believe it or not, I took this photo. Well, I didn't, the camera did, and it's a photo of the magnolia tree, which was just coming into flower outside the house. You could see it from my bedroom window and from the kitchen where I was staying in Canterbury. And Canterbury in England is the most amazing place for magnolias. They're absolutely spectacular ones. And I think Tamsin, when she makes this video, will put some pictures of the ones that we saw in Canterbury. And the weather was absolutely incredible. So all these amazing flowers were coming out, and just like the place was covered in floral snow. It was just amazing. So this, I found this quite inspiring because what happened, the camera has made this into something that wasn't really there, but it's made these branches very dark and all very graphic. So I just think as a warm-up, I'm going to just try to capture some of that graphicness or whatever. And the dogs have started barking now. So I've got a stinky one at my feet and noisy ones outside. I don't know. If I start rambling about stuff that you're not interested in, which I might, turn the volume off then and don't listen to me, because everybody likes the sound of their own voice, but nobody else does, on the whole. You have to be a pretty good speaker to be able to capture the interest, I think, and the attention of people. Anyway, so yes, what was I saying? We've had a very unfortunate thing has happened here in France, and that's one of the reasons why I haven't been able to do much in the way of painting. We've had an outbreak very close to where we live of avian flu. And the other day we were just starting to work on our front fence. We need to repair. We had it replaced a little while ago, but it was not a very good job. And it's basically rotted, well, it hasn't rotted, the paint's all flaking off. So anyway, we were out the front of the house trying to do something with this aforesaid fence, and suddenly someone drew up in a car, and it was the mayor of our local village, and he informed us in no uncertain terms that if we didn't lock away our chickens and keep them from roaming, he said, "You've been seen to have chickens outside, and don't you know that we're in a lockdown? Don't you know?" And so we said, "No, we haven't been away and we don't know. How long has it been in a lockdown?" So he said, "Oh, since 2016. So we said, "What?" So first we've heard of it. And he said, "Oh, you have to get all your birds in, otherwise you'll be fined and you'll be sent to prison, and then you'll be guillotined or locked up forever, and we'll take all your money away from you and you'll never see the light of day again." So we said, "Oh, okay, all right then. Well, since you say in such a polite way that we have to do these things, but these things of which you speak shall be done." So we have to keep our birds under netting. Under netting. Yes. So the last week or so, we've been trying to figure out how this strange thing may be done. And yeah, I'm losing the will to live, to be honest. So not only have we had Brexit and the pandemic, now we've got avian flu. So as I said, I'm doing this to loosen up and just to get the feel of painting and rambling and all the rest of it. And for any of you who don't understand English humour, which is most people, and people don't find me funny, I don't seriously mean that we have to be guillotined, but and Facebook, YouTube probably won't like it, but I don't care. To be honest, I'm getting a bit fed up with it in general. Life, I mean, not YouTube, God forbid. God forbid. It's Palm Sunday today, talking about God. And while we were in Canterbury, we went to the cathedral, which is a nice place to visit. It used to be nicer, but it's still not bad. And saw the Dean of Canterbury. One or two of you will know what I'm talking about. He does YouTube too. Dean of Canterbury Cathedral is a YouTuber. Isn't that amazing? So this is, yes, as I said, right, so that's enough of that. That gives me an idea of what I'm going to do next. Okay, so before we carry on with the real painting, I just wanted to talk a little bit about palettes. Palettes as in the sense of the things upon which you mix your paint rather than the paints that you have in a box. A lot of people have asked me where I get these little dishes from, and I can't tell you because it's a secret. Well, it's not a secret, actually. I don't know. Somebody gave them to me, and I don't know where he got them from. They looked to me as if they were handmade by a potter, and they're from Germany, so it's a complete mystery. You can buy something similar, but they're quite expensive. You can get them on Amazon. You can also get little round plastic ones used for things like dips for Chinese food. Anyway, another alternative which I came across the other day is this palette. This is a mixing tray. I think it's also for food. I think originally this is a Chinese dish for things like wabasaki, soy thingy, what's it? All that. I don't know about Chinese food, but I think that's right, or Japanese or something Oriental. And you have them in the little compartments, but it was sold as a palette, and I think it works quite well. You can get that on Amazon, and I'll put a link in the description below and on the blog on my website at dianeantone.com. So these are the colours I'm going to use. This is going to be, and I would probably also put this in these. This is the way I would do it normally in here. But I'm going to try this out as a different technique to try to help you deal with the issue that some people have raised. This is cobalt blue. I prefer working with tubes because the paint is more fluid, and I find that is more conducive to my style. And this is quinacridone gold. So what we have here is 3 primary colours, basically, although they're not pure primaries. Well, they are, actually. Alizarin crimson and cobalt blue certainly are, and quinacridone gold is definitely a yellow. Every painting needs those 3 primaries in it, and don't take any notice of anyone who says that you don't need. I believe you do, so whatever. That's Payne's Grey, and I'll need a little bit of that for the Chickadee. I don't believe in rules in painting either, but I do think that, and I think you can mix most of the colours you want, but if you haven't got the 3 primaries, you're not going to get very far with that job. They don't have to be cobalt blue, alizarin crimson, and quinacridone gold. They can be any yellow, any blue, any red, and an earth colour such as Payne's Grey or burnt umber perhaps, or I don't know, a dark colour of some kind, because, well, you'll see as we go along. Anyway, here I have my drawing. I will put the sketch of this on the website for you to download free of charge. What was I going to say? But I did this using my Lightbox. And if you have a Lightbox too, that you will also find quite handy. This is my Lightbox. I'll put a link to that also in the description. It's $30, I think I paid for it, plus an inordinate amount of shipping because I'm in France, but you won't have to deal with that. So there we are. Now, have to choose what brush I'm going to use. I'm not a brush fetishist. Just a second. I am not a brush fetishist. I have a lot of brushes. As you can see, I don't use any of them. There's a few more over here. These are the ones I mostly use. And I don't believe in making a fuss about brushes. So I shall choose something that I'm familiar with. This is a Drawwell number 11 round, and I'm going to use that. It's my sketch material. I'll put that over there. This is my paints and my palette. And let's get started. So pink for the flowers. Oh, I should show you the sketch I did at this point. It's dry now. This is just, what's the word? Just my imagination running away with me. Wasn't that Diana Ross? I'm going to just dab in some pink for these flowers. This is a bud. I'm working on a piece of Etival Canson, that's Clairefontaine. And I'm going to, I haven't fixed my paper down, I forgot. I'm just going to do these really wet. I haven't started this off with any particular process in mind. I might use some pen and ink. It depends how well it goes. If it doesn't go well, I will. If it goes well, I won't. We'll see. So those are the flowers. The branches are kind of grey-brown, aren't they? So we will need, to achieve that, we want some yellow, some blue, and some pink. And then I'm going to change that colour a little bit. The flowers have a kind of greyish, I think more blue, I think need more blue. Papery kind of thing. And then we have some, actually I'll come back to those because we have some bright green leaves coming out, but these things are bluish. Paint wants to go green. Everyone wants to do their paintings loose, don't they? I was looking at something on YouTube the other day called neurographic arts. Anyone heard of that? And I was thinking I might have a go at it because I think it could be quite useful. as a antidote to the world, which is anyone else a bit alarmed, worried, concerned, anxious? I know I am. I'm not going to pretend. No. So I need to paint it out, you know? I should say, actually, I'm going to ramble again a bit. I used to live in Canterbury, and it meant a lot to me because it was the place where my children went to school, and I trained to be a teacher there, and lots of emotional things happened while I was living there. And so, yeah, it's the one place in the world where I have... And I have to go back there for this dentist, and I wish he'd retire, then I'd have to go somewhere else and stop tormenting myself. But I come away from there feeling really that the world has not become a better place. I've got to shut up. I've got to shut up. I've got to shut up. So I'm coming in with a second layer of colour to hopefully cause something pleasant to occur. And soon we're going to let it dry. Well, about now actually. I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to try to do something with this bird. I'm really worried about our chickens. Well, I mean, we can't keep them indoors. We can't. But they've destroyed 8, I think, million birds in France in the last couple of, I don't know, last few weeks. And I think what's really upset me is that some people seem to think it's not really happening and it doesn't affect them. I don't know, I suppose people are just kind of running out of emotional fuel. There's only so much you can... There is only so much that we can... bear before we kind of shut down and say enough. I'm going to grab a fine brush to do the feet, legs. Grey, light grey. One leg, and then feet. Eye. Beak. And now we let it dry. Okay, so the first stage of drying is done, and so I'm just going to continue to come in with a few darks. So I've mixed up some darks using the cobalt blue and the alizarin crimson to give me a dark purpley colour, and then I'm just not going to do too much, but just dropping in a few shadowy points, just very broken up, not consistent in any way, but just broken up lines to give some sort of shape, indicate things like veins in the leaves and shadows at the base of the flower and stuff like that, but not in any way accurate, so to speak, just kind of making a pattern. This is something that I've learnt over the years, that the best paintings usually aren't, to my mind anyway, aren't realistic. They are patterns. I like to think of them as patterns. And that seems to me to be just purely my personal feeling. And then you have to try to remind yourself that it has to dry, and when it's dry it'll look a little bit different. So I'm going to stop now before I make a terrible mistake I can't do anything about. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll show you the finished, well, I'll show you it when it's finished. So we'll just pop in a couple of bright pink dots here and there, just to indicate that. And I'm going to stop, and I'm going to go and make dinner. So there we are, one chickadee sketch on a, I just noticed something that's not quite right, on a branch of magnolia. Yeah, that's better. His leg, his foot is a bit sketchy, a bit too sketchy. This afternoon I'm going to paint this lovely duck, which I've just sketched, and I'm just going to stick the paper to the board. I'm not stretching this paper because this is going to be a fairly dry painting, but I just need to hold it down a little bit. So just using some of my washi tape here, which I've mounted on my sellotape dispenser, which works really well. I'm quite pleased with that nifty trick. And I'm using the narrow one, which is a little bit too narrow really, because I'm running out of the wide one. So anyway, there we are. So yes, today I'm going to paint this duck, which I have painted before, and I've just drawn the outline by holding the paper up against the window to trace it. And that works really well. And I'm having another go with my water pen, which I recently acquired. This is by Kuretake. It's a very nice water pen. It's not a pen, Diane. It's a brush, although it works kind of like a pen, so it's not surprising we get confused. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to paint the duck surrounded by flowers and various different things, which I'm going to do in a kind of loose sort of way. So we're going to start off with the duck, and I'm using the Viviva colours here, which is a new thing for me. I haven't had much experience with these either, but as far as I can see, they work pretty well. And I'm just going to find something to do my mixing on. Just a little china palette there. So we're going to pick up some yellow, and I'll start with the beak. And I've been reading reviews about these paints and trying to figure out what exactly they are made of, and I can't quite find out, but I think they are dyes rather than actual paints, and I suspect that they might fade. I don't know. They might fade, they might not fade quickly enough to worry about. But they are very bright and very clean, and they mix very well. So yeah, it's an interesting experience, and I really like using the water brush, the water brush. It's very freeing. I don't know why. I'm not sure why. Two things going on here. One, it's very exciting in a way to use a different technique. So the brush is a different technique for me, and the different paints are a different technique. I've been trying to decide what to do about paints. I need to buy something new to try, and I can't make up my mind whether to get Daniel Smith, which I don't yet have, or I was looking for core, the core ones, which are supposedly they dry the colour that you put them on the paper, the colour that they stay that colour. That would be good, wouldn't it? Okay, so anyway, I'm just playing around here with this here duck, and I've used chrome yellow and happy yellow for the feet, and I'm just putting some colour, darker colour there, which is come to the tree bark brown to give some shadow on his feet. I don't know what this is going to look like. Done something similar on his beak up there. Now, I know that I'm not going to be able to paint his body using the Viviva paints, because they don't have the right kind of blue at all. So I'm going to go in with my watercolor brush, my water brush. I'm going to pick up some cobalt blue and see if I can make that work with this brush. What I like to do when I'm painting like this, where you're painting blue to give the impression of white, I like to keep it nice and loose with lots of backgrounds and mixtures and things. A little bit of orange has come in there, but that's okay. That will just add to the whole thing. Don't know where that came from though. So this brush with the water in it actually really helps with that process. So I'm going to leave that like that and let that do whatever it wants to do. And now I'm going to have a go at painting some flowers. And in this set there are some metallic colours which might be fun to try. And so let's have a look at what happens when we pick up This is metallic baby pink mixed with a little bit of chrome yellow. And I'm just going to pop that in like that. And this is same colours with a bit more pink. So we'll just do some roses. Now these, I'm doing these roses in the modified C stroke technique. And the inks, they work differently from paint. There's no question about it. They flow much more rapidly. They definitely behave differently. And you can only really find that out by doing it. So and then the fun thing is if you just drop a little bit of, you squeeze the brush a little bit and let some water out at the end, then you can get a nice blurry edge. Then once it's started to dry a little bit, you can come back in and drop some more of the colour in and let that just blend. So now let's go for some green. I'm not sure about these greens. Well, that's a very, oh wow. Wow. That's a very good contrast with the flowers. And the water brush is really quite good, actually. If you mix yellow ochre with, what was that? That was Viridian, what they call Viridian, yellow ochre and Viridian. That gives you a more natural green. We can always come back and change the colours a little bit later if we want to, because they're transparent, so you can just go over the top. So as I'm putting the colour on, I'm just squeezing the brush. Okay, so now we wanted yellow ochre mixed with viridian. Oof. To get a slightly more realistic green. Hello, Lottie. It might be that this brush wears out quite quickly. I don't know. I'll have to see how long it lasts. And so now we need to paint the eye. So we want black. I've just got some nice dark brown, green there, which is the a little bit of slate black mixed with yellow ochre and viridian. And we'll pick up a little bit more of the pink, maybe, sort of baby pink. So there we are. One highly decorative duck. We need to wait for it to dry to be able to put in some of the final details. Maybe a leaf or two up here. Now I need to let it dry. Okay, so there's our duck all nice and dry, and I have rubbed off all of the pencil lines and everything, so he's nice and clean and tidy now. So I'll just remove the washi tape, trying not to tear the paper too much. And you see what he looks like when he's separated from his tape. Hope you enjoyed that. It's great fun. I do recommend having a go with these water brushes. They're really liberating. And I really like these bright colours that Viviva have produced as well. Word of warning, I believe, I'm not sure, I can't find out, but I do believe that they are prone to fading, but I can't say for sure whether or not that's true. Yeah, so there we are. Today in this tutorial, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, if you're a beginner, how you can draw and paint, draw very easily and paint very simply pretty little pansies, which makes a lovely design for a Mother's Day card. And I'm going to show you how to turn one piece of paper. We've got a piece of A4 or 8x10 watercolor paper here, pre-cut into this size. I buy this from Clairefontaine, it's Etival paper. And I'm going to just cut this up into 3 sections, and that way we're going to make a set of a bookmark, a gift tag and a greetings card out of this. So I'm just going to make a line there, which is going to be the width of our bookmark. Then I'm going to divide this remaining piece, which is 26 centimeters. I'm going to divide that into one piece of 20 centimeters, sorry, not 20, 16 here. And so I'll just draw that line like that. And then I'm just going to take a sharp knife. I'm going to cut it there. Hopefully I'll be able to cut through the paper. There we go. And then I'm going to make that a little bit wider than the width of the ruler. Wants to be about 5 centimeters for a bookmark. So we do that. Now I'll use my nifty eraser here. I do love this thing. It's so nice because you don't have to actually touch the rubber itself, and it's much more accurate. And then use my patent shaving brush, new, to brush off all the bits and pieces. Okay, so there we have it. That's for the bookmark. This is for the gift tag. We'll fold that in half later. And this is for the card. So we'll just score the line down the middle so we know it's only a little card, but quicker to paint. So that's 21, so that's 10.5. So we'll just mark that there. Mark that there. And then just score that with something like a bone folder. Just do that. And we can easily fold it in half. Get a nice little card. Okay, so there we are. We'll open that out to paint on it so that we can see where we're going. And if I can find my washi tape. I'll just put a piece of tape down there to hold it in place. Okay, so now you can make quite a pretty little greetings card, something in in the way of something like that, with just a couple of little flowers. And most people are really fond of pansies. So there's a quick and easy way of drawing a pansy, and then there's a quick and easy way of painting them if you like a delicate look. So what you do is you start off with this drawing. You start off by doing a little pair of backward brackets like that. So a back to front C and a C, or you could say 2 brackets back to back. And then you sort of draw an upside down heart. Doesn't have to be symmetrical. From the bottom of both of those half brackets, you draw a heart. And then you come from the top of the bracket and you go round like that for the 2 side petals. And then because there are 2 petals at the back, although for years I didn't realise it, but when you draw it, you actually see, oh yeah, so it is. So there's your 5 petals on your pansy. And we can do another one up here. And it's completely up to you what size you do and how you arrange them. And if you do tiny little petals, you could even do like wild violas or violets, which are very similar. And we'll just put a little bud up here. And the stem would come down kind of behind, like that. And this one would have its stem down here, perhaps, and this one. And then maybe we'll do another one down here. And of course you can lay it out exactly how you want. And then we'll just do a few leaves, and pansies have leaves like this with wide scallops kind of thing. Like that. To make it look a bit more realistic, you might want to put them behind. Sometimes. And maybe we'll just have also another bud over here. So there we are, there's our design. Maybe another leaf. And then the way we paint these, you pick any colour you like, and I quite like, if I can find it, cobalt blue. And so if we made this one blue, what we do is we just wet the petals with clean water, and I'm using a size 7 round brush. And then I'm just going to dip into my paint and pick up quite a nice, quite intense, reasonably intense, not too much water. Then I'm just going to drop that into the top of the petal that I've just wet, like that. And just literally let that bleed. Then you can, if you want to, just very, very lightly on the line where you had your pencil marks, just very slight blue around there. You don't want too much because it should be really delicate. And if it looks like it's going to go the wrong way, just pick it up with a clean brush like that. So we'll let that spread. Don't touch that middle bit though, because it always looks better if you just leave it to blend. And cobalt blue is a very good blending colour. It moves nicely on wet paper. And then we could do one in, let me think, what should we do? Should we do it in violet? This is quinacridone violet. So the same thing, a fairly intense amount of colour there, and we just drop it in. And you can see it bleeds in exactly the same way, but not quite so enthusiastically as the blue, but it will move. It will continue to move. And you can, if you want, at this point, if you want to, you can paint quite often these violets, pansies have the back petals more coloured, so you could just come in and do that and drop a little bit more in the back one there if you wanted to. Oh yes, and of course just a little tiny bit around the front here. We could do the bud on the one behind in that colour too. Just put a little bit of mauve in there. And we'll just encourage that to bleed in a little bit. Maybe we'll lift that up a bit, perhaps it's a bit too dark. I keep these quite delicate. And then what you can do is take something sharp, like this is a scalpel. I think that might be too sharp. A piece of credit card or any kind of cardboard. You cut a credit card in half, it gives you a nice, just sharp enough point, and then we're going to just scratch in the markings, some markings down the front there, which will make darker lines because it will bleed into those scratch marks. So we'll just do that. And then we need to do, oh yes, I wanted to soften that. It went a bit too hard. And then the third one, let's do that in, should we do that in pink? This is alizarin crimson. It's a nice, strong, spreading red. Not so much pink, more red. But if you paint it really thinly, it's redder. And then you can drag down with the brush if you want. That's another way of doing it. You can make the whole petal pink. Like that. And then you can drop in contrasting colour there. And we'll make this bud in that colour. I'm just going to put a little bit up there too. Then the next thing is the leaves. So you want a nice, soft green. And then what I do is I just drop the colour in and then keep changing it a little bit. So add a bit of quinacridone gold to that green. And use plenty of water, drop it in like that, let it kind of mix and mingle. And just do a single line for the stalks, like that. Change the colour again, a bit of quinacridone gold with the olive green I'm using there as my base green. So a very good little project for somebody who wants to do a little card for their mum, or to just simply learn how to paint flowers, starting with the simplest ones. And the pansies are simple, So we're going to scratch in a line for the centre vein and then just come out with the card to show the side veins like that. And then not really quinacridone so much as lemon yellow for the centre, a little bit of both. Don't want it too greenish. So quinacridone and lemon yellow for the centres, those three flowers. Then we need to wait for it to dry and rub out the lines and see if we want to add anything, but it looks okay so far. You might want to just vary the colour of the leaves a little bit. I think that's always a good thing. Always looks better to have variety in your leaves. And on the stems, in fact. So that's that. And then we can do something very similar. Put that to one side while we have a go at the bookmark. And I think, once you've done, perhaps you would start with the bookmark and say to yourself, I'll do the bookmark first to practice. So, very simple. Make sure you curve the stems. Don't draw the stems straight. Remember, it's an upside down heart for the front. There we are, and now we'll just quickly paint those. Pop in the water, pick up the colour, let that one mix and mingle. Pop in the water. If you had to do a lot of pretty bookmarks as a gift, you could do worse than just do masses of little pansies. They're quite fun to do. Using Potter's Pink on that one. And then let's, we've got a bud there and a bud there. And while they're bleeding, we'll do the petal, their leaves. And then we'll use the credit card, to do the lines again. And we'll leave that to dry for a sec. I'm going back to this one. Let's see if it's dry. I think so. It's always a good idea to just check that it's nice and dry, so that when you take off the pencil, you don't do an awful smudge. That sometimes happens to the best of us. So there we are, and I think we just want to put a little tiny bit of shadow here behind that petal. And just give that a little bit more shape there too. A little bit of colour there. And mauve one, just put a little bit behind here, a little bit here, veins. And then, I don't know, it's up to you at this point whether or not you want to do any spatter, but you could do. It would not necessarily be a completely bad idea, so we'll just cover up that part of the card and maybe pick up, what colour? Pink? Lilac? I don't want it on the actual flowers, so we'll just dab that off. And then this one, just to show you a variety of ideas, you could, instead of leaving it like that, you could, hang on, we'll just put the yellow in. You could bring in some pen and ink work. Probably want to do both the same, but you could do both of them with pen and ink, or both of them without. Personally, when I do this kind of thing, I quite like to go outside of the painting, if you know what I mean, and not follow the lines exactly, although with pansies, you probably don't want to go too far out. And so we'll just rub out the pencil lines again, and Bob's your uncle. And the other little piece of card here, which you could turn into a gift tag, or even two, depending on how big you want it to be. Same kind of thing. You could do the same thing on there as well. So all we need to do now is just punch a hole in the end and put in a piece of ribbon or something like that, and we're done. There we are, one with ink, one without. Hope you enjoyed that. Give it a try. It doesn't take too long. And if you did enjoy the video, please give us a like and subscribe. Turn on notifications if you wouldn't mind. And I'll see you again soon. So thanks ever so much once again. Bye for now, everybody. Bye-bye.